This is working. Yay! Okay, hello, hello. Wait, pause. It's starting. Here we are. Okay. There's like multiple things happening all at once on the tech side of things. But hello, hello. Welcome to today's Ask Me Anything call. I am Stephanie, and we're going to talk about intensives and the launch guide program. So there's two ways to watch today. You can watch live in the Facebook group, or you can come into the Zoom room if you want to come off mute and share your questions and have a conversation. So let me just hop over there and invite people on in. Um, okay. And if you can hear me and see me, put a like or say hello so I can make sure this is for real working. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Yay! It's working. Hello, hello. Welcome. I'm gonna see if I can. Oh, wait, that did something weird. I'm gonna do this. Okay, so hey everybody, welcome. We are having an Ask Me Anything call, and we're talking about intensives. We're talking about the Launch Guide program, if you have any questions about that. And there's two ways to watch and participate today. One is being live in the Zoom room where you can come off mute or put things in the chat if you want. I just realized my hair looks really weird. Sorry about that. Or you can watch from the live stream in the Facebook group and type your questions there. So whatever you prefer. Some people really like to talk versus type. So I'm trying to make that available to you. And let me open this up so I can see questions that are coming in from every angle. Hi, Lauren. Thanks to the folks who are here live. Heather, Michelle, we have doubles today. And we're gonna dive right in. So is there anybody before I jump into questions that have like kind of come in through the Facebook group or through email? Um, Anybody who's live, do you have a question where you want to come off mute and chat? You get first dibs because you're here in the flesh. Yeah, Michelle.
So I took Amber Lida's marketing intensive, and I know that you've worked with her and such before. We did it more on the marketing piece, and now I have booked some intensives, but I know it's so nice.
Yes.
I'm looking to figure out how to optimize kind of the offering and such. I
Yeah.
don't know if your offer is good for, like, since I already have the all the marketing piece and I'm not afraid of the intensives, it's more for the crafting of the intensives. And so I was just wondering if you could speak more about what you offer in that way.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect question. Um, that's exactly what Launch Guide is all about, is kind of taking the concept of here's what I want to do in the intensive, and how can I formalize that? And also how can I build it into my practice so that I have policies, paperwork, procedures that can support me so I can just show up really for my clients more than anything because it's so stressful to like it's so exciting to get an intensive, but then all of a sudden you can be like, what am I doing? What do I need to send to the people? So that's exactly what we focus on. And I mean, you're not the only one. Some people come in and they are totally brand new to intensives. They haven't done one before. Other people are like, I've done this, but it feels like it's sort of like I'm just sort of winging it or kind of just hoping for the best. And I know I want to make this a more, hopefully, like a more standard or consistent thing. So, yeah, yeah, that's perfect. Is there
So nice.
anything that you've run into as you've started the process that you're like, oh, that specifically would help me out? And then I can tell you if we,
Yeah. So I have my paperwork and such. I adapted all of that. I did a workbook and like I feel like that's
ooh,
all good. I'm struggling with um feeling like I'm taking on, so I'm switching from trauma focus for Christian women.
Uh-huh.
And that's, I do a lot of weekly. I've stopped taking weekly and I want to just do intensives. But the natural marketing brings people with more complex PTSD. And
Sure.
so I'd like to be able to limit it to one focused thing. And that's where I'm trying to get to. But that's the piece that I'm like, should I just say it's only a 2-day thing, a 3-day thing, and we're only going after one topic? That's kind of
Oh,
where I'm
okay.
struggling.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're not alone in that. And then sometimes we kind of talk about this in the consult calls that convert bonus, which is like where you're sitting with someone for the first time and they're saying they're giving you, that sort of like rough overview of what they're dealing with and what they're looking for. And then we can kind of have the conversation of um, do we want to select one piece of that and go really deep and just do like a half day or a 1 day intensive? Or and like here's what that would look like in terms of like time, money, etc. Versus do they want if they feel like it's all jumbled together and it would be very hard to like contain it to just one thing, then um then do they want to go more towards like a 3 day or a week long or something like that? And here's what the time and money and investment can look like. And then kind of like helping them decide. I feel like most of the time I've heard clients say like I literally don't know. So like can you tell me what you recommend? And I think as I like was doing them more often and could get a sense of what people generally how much we could get done in that time frame, I could say more confidently, you know, based on what you're telling me, I really think that you'll get more of what you're looking for if we did, 3 days or whatever. But
Gotcha.
it's hard. It's really hard to know and to like have that conversation honestly.
Okay. So even if after you've done it a while, it's still just using your clinical judgment. It's not like a cut and dry.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
And to tell people, I can tell you my best estimate, but I mean, it's almost like exploratory surgery for your physical body. We
Yeah.
just don't know. We can take the best history, we can understand their current coping skills and strengths and whatnot. But until you sit down and start to do the work with someone, we cannot with certainty predict how quickly or how
That's
slowly things will go. I feel
that's
like
really good to hear you say that because that's what I've
yes,
been saying to people. Okay.
yes, yes. And I think I've
Okay.
really felt clients like soften when I say that to them in the consult or in the pre-intensive or whatever. So I think it gives us permission to just be present to whatever's there and not worry about the other things, just follow what's in front of us. And I feel like that's when the best work happens anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd say in the workshop, it's a lot more like structured training. There's some Q&A. The cohort is more where we get to like have discussions about here is exactly what I'm working on. Here's who how I'm thinking of designing the time or using the time. Like that depth of conversation can happen there as opposed to the workshop is more of like a typical type of training we might go to.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. Cool. Anybody else who's here on the call, have a question where you want to I didn't even look in the chat. Come off mute and share. And if not, that's totally okay too. Okay, there's my chat. Think on it. No pressure. Let me check the Facebook feed here. Hello, hello. Okay, we have a question here. Lauren says, I did 8 intensives last year. Okay, look, that's so great. Amazing. That's huge. This year has been slow. Okay, yeah. I have it on my website. I only do couples, but would love to do other ones. I want to truly just do these. Not sure where to go from here. Oh wait, Lauren said not how to sure to come off mute. Oh, you can come off mute if you're in the Zoom, but I think you're um in the Facebook group. So if you want to do the Zoom link, I think it's in the Facebook event um there. So anyway, well, congratulations. First of all, that's massive. 8 intensives in a year is nothing. Like that's something to be so proud of. Um, I'm curious, you said couples. I'm curious how people found you for those because usually when we know the channels of marketing or referrals that are working well already, or have worked for us in the past, we can strengthen them or nurture them a little bit more, as opposed to just blindly trying lots of marketing things or trying something we've never done before. The past things are usually can be really successful. And then I'd be curious um, if you feel like, with couples work, if there's a certain like type of couple or a certain either pain point or desire that they're dealing with that really moves them to seek out an intensive. Because I think the more we can be really, really clear about that, it just connects. It connects more with the potential client. It makes our marketing and messaging more effective, but it also helps a lot with networking and referrals, right? Because if I tell my therapist friends or just people I know in the community, like, hey, I do EMDR intensives, it's kind of like, oh, okay, cool. And you just generally think, I don't know, if I thought someone needed EMDR, would I refer them to you? As opposed to, at one point I was like, I specifically work with, let me admit here, folks are joining the Zoom room. Yay. I would say I really enjoy working with neurodivergent adults. At one point, I was seeing a lot of folks who had like sexual abuse in their early childhood or um, a lot of traumatic grief. So I would be telling people, if you've been seeing someone for a long time and they're your weekly client, and you feel like you've processed this grief or this loss like so many times, and in your mind you're like, I feel like usually clients have progressed at this point, or I feel like I would have expected that to sort of like soften or loosen, or I've tried all the things that I can think of to try, and I'm not sure where else to go. Then a lot of times I could come in and do like a brief 1 to 3 day intensive with that person and then send them back to their primary. And most of the time, that grief was stuck because there was a really, really complex relationship with the person who died. Maybe they were like an abuser, maybe it was a death by suicide, or there was some sort of guilt or shame that the person had related to the death. Like usually it was pretty, pretty complex. And the person didn't know that. And the therapist didn't know that. But because I said really clearly, if you see someone who's really stuck in grief and they can't move forward, you're not sure why, I'd love to work with them. That solved a problem for the referring therapist because they're like, I don't know what else to do. Um, and, obviously for the client who's like, suffering, um, like trying to move forward. So, anyway, I think I sort of went off on a long tangent, but let me bring myself back. Typically, they come in for a session and then we discuss moving forward. That's great. Yeah. So, as specific as you can get in terms of like what you work with, because then it puts the light bulb off in someone's brain, like, ooh, that's me. And then, and it also cues to your referral partners when they're sitting with a client and then all of a sudden they realize, gosh, we're really stuck in this grief situation. Like, bingo, you're the person who pops to mind. So, yeah. Yes, yes, yes. Ooh, typically for communication, cheating, or issues with intimacy. Yeah. Love that. I'm sure those could all be co-occurring at once. Awesome. Let me make sure I answered the original question. I have it on my website. I only do couples. I think the other thing that you could do is if you don't have this on your website already, or if you're not sharing it with like your natural circle of folks, like colleagues and whatnot, is like what's the difference or what's the benefit? Like who's a good fit for weekly therapy and why might someone choose an intensive instead of that? Because I think a lot of times people don't, we honestly don't know. And I think it takes practice to talk, like how to talk about it yourself. But to say, oh, if there's a couple that like they they have come to a really tough spot and they are really, really wanting a concentrated amount of therapy all at once, or they have very demanding schedules and trying to do weekly therapy is just not, is very difficult for them, or whatever the reason is, because then it gives us another, um, like it helps people understand why the intensive could be helpful. So yeah, hopefully that helps. And then they think of you. Cool, cool. All right. More folks joining us. Amazing. I see a question here in the Zoom chat. Can I ethically market my intensives just to women? So that's a great question. Um, Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's not that you're saying like I will not, work with men or I'm like I have a discriminatory practice against that, but you can just say like this is designed for this person in mind, for a woman who's going through this, this, and this. And it's designed specifically for them. Um, yeah. Is there do you want to come off mute or is there anything else that you're like circling around your head as we talk about that? And if not, that's okay too. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Just said no, that answers it. Yep. Good. Good question. Okay. I'm seeing a question here. And folks who are live in the Zoom, if you want anything, I'm going to do one off of the Facebook. And if you have a question, just stick your hand up in the Zoom room and we'll put you up next. So let's see. Linda, have you worked with anyone who does ART sessions for intensives? It's not recommended to do more than one ART session per day, but I'm curious if you've seen them structured in a specific way. Yeah, I have. So there's a couple different ways that you can do it. And one is that you can do the one ART session, which I'm not trained in it, but I think it's like 60 to 90 minutes, somewhere in there, depending. So you could sandwich it between other activities in the intensive. So maybe you have them come in, do some sort of like grounding. If you do other approaches or modalities, you can have some somatic work or art or yoga or whatever, or you could just do the basic interview if you haven't done like an intake and you want it to be all in one in a single session. And then, depending on how you practice, I've seen people do like a closing activity with them that is just like the bookends. So again, it could be music, it could be in nature, it could be body based, whatever you enjoy doing. And then that is the intensive experience. I have also heard of people doing multiple ART sessions in one intensive with like small breaks in between. So it really depends on your vision and how you want to work. Um, and then also just to prepare the client that if you do decide to do that, multiple ART sessions, that's that they will be very tired after that, like that's pretty intensive. So there would need to be like an aftercare plan of even more explicit than the other intensives of like, make sure you give yourself time to rest and take care of yourself because that's a lot. It's a lot to handle. Let me know if anything else comes up with that or you have any other questions. I also think it's kind of trial and error to see what you like. So, um, and based on what the client, how the client is responding, because we talked about that earlier. We don't always know how the client's going to respond. Some people I'm like very tentative because I feel like maybe their window of tolerance is a lot more narrow, and then they do great, and they're just like, we can do a bunch of stuff. And then other people, I think, oh, let's just do things as normal. And they actually have like a very large emotional response or whatnot. And then we need to slow it down. So maybe generally you can have sort of like your game plan and then adjust in the moment based on how the client is actually responding there. And usually I'll just verbalize that. If we had an agreed upon plan that we were going to do a certain activity, then I would just say, hey, I'm noticing that um, whatever, like this is a lot, or it's really touching you deeply today, or whatnot. I'm sensing that it might be good for us to slow things down or pause and spend some time doing this and just say like, is that okay for you? Or, just ask for consent so that it's not like you get to the end of the experience and they're like, we didn't even do what you taught, like we didn't even do the plan. Like, why didn't we do this? I think so much of it is yeah, being present in the moment and having that dialogue with the client uh, throughout. So I hope that helps. Okay. Ooh, Paul, no worries. Glad you're here. What would be your top 3 questions to ask a couple before booking them in an intensive? Ooh, this is good. Coming from an RLT stance. I love this question. First, full disclosure, I do not do couples work. So I may not be the best person to ask in terms of like clinically with couples. I am now going to ask or I'll tag some RLT trained therapists who do intensives and we can see what they say for that modality specifically. Uh, Top 3 questions I would ask. I feel like there should be some sort of, magic answer, but what I'm really thinking is I would make sure, like you would in any kind of couples work, like make sure that like both people are consenting to be there and want to be there, and asking both people like um, what it is that you're hoping to see change. And I would be curious if they have any, like what their concerns are. Because a lot of time, a big part of the work in intensives is how the client is feeling about the intensive. So, sometimes many times there's different parts of the person. And I do come from a parts lens, so it kind of lends itself to it. But a lot of times, even within a single person, there's one part that's like, let's do this. I'm all in. I'm ready. I want to work through this issue, blah, 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 100%. And then there's another part that's like really hesitant, maybe even like not on board. Depending on how like integrated the person is. Or they're just like they're on board, but they're scared. And so I think even more so when you have multiple people with multiple parts inside, just getting a sense of like what they're looking for, what how they feel about doing it, and if anything could get in the way um would I would just want to know out of curiosity. And then something that's come up in our cohort calls with folks who do couples work is like the safety aspect, kind of understanding like screening for any safety concerns within the relationship in terms of like violence or abuse. And then which some couples therapists, they really do work with that. Other people feel like that's not something that um, they would refer for something else. So it depends on you and your scope, what you want to work with. But but yeah, something that's else is coming to my mind. Ooh, I'm gonna see what you said. The other thing that's coming to my mind is I feel like RLT is really focused on like taking responsibility, and having some of that like understanding what you're doing in the relationship and also what you're receiving in the relationship. So I might be curious, like, have they had any prior exposure to that? Sometimes I ask people when I do EMDR, like, have you done EMDR before? And if they have, and if they've had a good experience with it, that cues to me like the pace that we're going to work at is really, really different than someone who's like, it's completely brand new. So I feel like that could be similar with couples and, um, like what their prior experience with couples work and RLT specifically. Okay, I'm looking at the chat. Right. So then with couples, there are many parts. Thanks for sharing that. Never thought of it in that way. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Let me know. I'm gonna tag um the two people I'm thinking of are Audrey Shane and Zariah Lufu. I think I always say her name incorrectly, so apologies. But they're both Launch Guide alum who do RLT work. So I'll see if we can get y'all connected. Cool, cool. Ooh, have a question here. Yay, yay. This is from Doreen. I'm looking for two things. Clinicians clinicians who has the capacity to support each other for free as we build our caseloads, learn how to do intensives, including all the admin, paperwork, etc. Okay, so Doreen's sharing her info if anybody wants to like, pair up for accountability or just like peer support. So that's really cool. And then I'm looking to hire someone on a budget, so not 10K, who specializes in marketing for counselors who are trained in brain spotting phases one and two. And I'm taking a course in brain spotting intensives in Feb. Yay! Exciting. And in IFS, informed in IFS. I really connected with the clinician who uses ChatGPT in the summit. Yes, that's Kim Tolson. She's fantastic. Um, as a structure, that was easy to follow. I'm not sure when to buy your products as I'm still marketing. Thank you in advance. Yeah, no worries. That's a great question. So, Launch Guide really is about formalizing, like thinking about the intensive you want to offer and then formalizing it into a specific service. So taking it from this idea to here's how it's actually going to look from start to finish. And some of that like the foundation stage is like our why and also why for the client, because really those are essential for the foundation and make sure that the intensive is strong and meets everybody's needs. And essentially that it is designed well so that people want to do it with you and you want to continue to do it for a long time. So that's the why stage. Then we go into the essential ingredients. That's like, how are you going to format the intensive in terms of, the length of the sessions, the frequency of the sessions. We look at your schedule. For some people, it's like relatively straightforward where they would schedule an intensive. And other people, it's a little bit complicated. So there's specifically support around like what does it look like to bring intensives into my schedule? And then pricing, right? That's like a huge thing. A lot of times people will start intensives at their standard hourly rate, but as you see them like for me, as I saw the transformation and people kept saying like I would pay you double, or this changed my life, or whatnot. It felt in alignment for me to offer it at a more premium rate. And that's what really allowed me to like hey, bring my caseload down so that I could do the deep work. So there's that. And then the last one is the client journey. And one of the in the VIP, one of the templates is all the emails. So, like, literally start to finish, every single interaction that I have with the client throughout the intensive, it's like completely mapped out. And for some people, they're like, "Oh, that's no big deal. Like, I could do that, no problem." But if you're like me, I'm like, "No, I really want to have a checklist so I can like literally check through everything, and it just puts me at ease." So that's kind of been developed over the years based off of like my own process and all the therapists that have gone through the program. So anyway, that's kind of like the overview of what it does. Um, and maybe that helps kind of see is that a good fit for you right now. So yeah, cool, cool. Uh, do I wait to complete brain spotting intensive before I buy the launch guide? I remember you saying we're ready to start now, but wow. It is honestly a really personal decision. So if you feel like, yeah, I want to get some of this like business stuff into place, and that feels exciting to you, then do it. But if you're like, no, I want to have a more clear picture of like your clinical side of things before you structure the business side, um, that's totally that's totally fine too. Yeah, it really depends. And it's cool that you have both supports. Awesome. In the cohort, we get to have those conversations a little bit more where people are saying, hey, here's the work I do. Here's what I love. This is what I'm thinking for the agenda. And then me and the other folks who are on the call can say, oh, wow, that's so great. Or like, oh, have you thought about this or whatever. So that's fun. Do you have a sale for the launch guide in cohorts? I I don't think there's a sale. Usually when it's live like this is the time when there's more bonuses. So like it's open, self-paced all year round, but the difference is when we're doing it like this, we can be on the live call, we can answer questions and have conversations, and then there's some like, special perks for doing it this time of year. So yeah, cool. Okay, I'm checking the other chat. Paul said he can help you for $9,999. Because he said let anything less than 10K. That's great. Uh, love it. Cool. Anybody else? Whether you're in the Facebook group or here on the Zoom, any other questions coming up for you? There was one that was emailed in, and now I have to remember what it was. Give me just a sec. Mm, Oh no, I don't have it handy. That's okay. I'm one of those therapists who I'm like, I just like being quiet together. Especially after talking so much. Ooh, okay. What's the best way to deliver workbooks and such to intensive clients? Do I print them out and mail them? That's totally a preference thing too. So, I tend to send them electronically. And some people will type and send it back to me that way. And I have other folks who have printed out like they want to print it for themselves and have it in a binder or whatever else. You could definitely, um, obviously, it's easier to receive the information back if it's electronically, but you could definitely like print it and send it to them, and with a self-addressed like return envelope, um, or print it and send it to them and then, have them return it to your office or something like that. I think the only thing that's weird about sending it back is like if it got lost in the mail and it has really sensitive personal information that might feel a little not great. Um, Let me see. Do you use regular email? So I have Google Workspace that has a BAA, and I also have there's a in the paperwork bundle, there's a form that's the communication waiver. And so just as a little extra coverage, it allows clients to say, I understand that there's inherent risks with communicating via email, but that is the way I prefer to choose to communicate with my therapist, in order to be, in order for convenience. So if you want to, you can use that waiver as well. Um, so yeah. Hope that helps. I know if you did print it and send it, I would just make sure that you account for that cost in the total package fee. Cool. Do you suggest starting a new LLC when doing intensives versus under your private practice? So it depends, and again, this is a really personal decision. Um, And generally, I would say I would do whatever's the least amount of work. But there's reasons why people do start a different LLC. For me, I was completely private pay and I was not in network with any insurance companies. So I kept my intensives within my same private practice and they were just a different service in under my practice. Um, usually when people are creating a separate LLC, it's because they are in network with some insurances, and some insurance contracts state that if you provide any type of therapy service to a client that's in network, it has to be submitted as a claim. And so not every insurance company has that clause in the contract. It's important to understand what's in your contract. So if that's the case, then someone may decide to open a LLC that is not contracted with insurance, that has a separate EIN, and offer their intensives that way. And that way they feel a little bit more comfortable in terms of like risk and not opening themselves up to like possible clawbacks in the future. For other people though, honestly, the folks who've been doing intensives for like a decade, they're like saying, I offer insurance, I also do intensives, and I just the client signs a statement saying they understand it's completely out of pocket, nothing will be submitted to insurance for any reason, and they've never had any kind of issue. So it depends how, which approach feels most comfortable to you. Does that help? And honestly, what your contract says. I have a template letter that you can send to an insurance company that says, like, states, I want to offer an intensive or begin offering intensives. Please advise me about how this should be billed. And it's really interesting to see what they say. Sometimes it's all over the map. I mean, honestly. Um, but that's available if that's a path you prefer. Other people just think as long as they sign an opt-out and insurance is never involved, it's fine. Cool. Oh, sorry, Adele. Lost connection right after you answered my question. Yeah, I hope you heard it. If not, we'll have it in the replay. I was talking about the communication waiver that's in the paperwork bundle. Cool. Any other questions? I think I'll give it a few minutes in case anybody's, hopping in or out or just seeing this in the Facebook feed. But I think the thing that is really special to me is that I've had the chance to do this live now, I don't even know, maybe 5 or 6 times with hundreds of therapists who come from all different modalities, different approaches, different parts of the country and world, and really gotten the chance to see what questions they have, what things they're running into in real time, and make sure that, you know, that if you come through the program, you feel really supported and have the information that you need. And if it's not there, we'll put it in there. So that's kind of, I think that's my lifelong learner part of me is like, ooh, yeah, hopefully you find something that we haven't thought of yet so that we can get it sorted for you, and then that's going to be helpful for somebody else in the future. As they're bringing this to their clients. And it's just it's really exciting to be able to do the deeper work. And then also see, oh, when I work differently in my practice, here's how it can like flower and shift in ways I didn't expect. So, yeah. Lovely, lovely. Ooh, I see a question. Oh, this is a good question. What's the best way to keep everything organized since I just joined Launch Guide today? Ah, welcome, welcome. So good. Um, Organized. Whoo, man, oh man. I would say have if you do a Google Drive or you have folders on your computer, I would make sure that you make a specific folder for intensives and maybe even like the launch guide folder. And then as you're working through things like the templates or the workbook or whatever it is, that you make a conscious effort to save everything to that location. So that way it's not like floating around everywhere. And that I'm speaking this from experience, okay? It can be very stressful if you're wondering, like, where is that? Or I'm looking for that right now. So just as you go and as you open up the different pieces of the program, um, or if you're taking notes or whatever, to save them to one central place, and that will help so much. And if you're not like a electronic type person and you prefer to print, again, to like keep it all in one place, I will show you, but my office is a little bit messy. I have like binders from different courses like Launch Guide that I've taken and printed the different pieces. And then, when I want to visit it, I'm not hunting everywhere and having a heart attack trying to find it. So definitely, definitely that will help a ton. Because yeah, that's a thing. Is there anything else? Best way to keep organized? Mm, no, I think that's number one. Cool. Hope that helps. Any other questions? I'm like, I better look down in case there's a Facebook question coming in. Um, well, I'll just say no stress if something pops up for you. I'll be in the Facebook group a lot this week, or you can always email me at, I'll put it in the chat. It's hello@intensivedesignlab.com. And I'll put a reminder out. We're doing the hot seat coaching session on Friday. It's going to be same time, 11 Central, 12 Eastern. And folks who attended the masterclass live got entered to win a spot in the hot seat coaching. So I'm going to be sending out who those folks are here later today. But it's a chance to come on to share about what you are envisioning for your intensive. And then I'll, coach you through the first steps and help out with wherever you might be feeling stuck or uncertain. So that's going to be a ton of fun. And I'm obsessed with I always listen to podcasts where people are getting coached. And I almost like watching other people get coached more than me. So if you aren't picked, it's still pretty entertaining to watch. Um, Doreen, Kim Tolson is the one who talked at the summit last year about using AI to help plan your intensives. So if you want to connect with her around that, um, she hosts the Clinical AI Club, and she's awesome. Among other things, she does lots of things. Uh, Adele said, how to keep organized, especially for us who have neurodivergent brains. Yes, I totally agree. I have like different some of my neurodivergent stuff makes me really structured and others makes me like really flexible. But I would say when going through Launch Guide to follow where you feel energized and what feels important to you at the moment. So there is a structure. You can go through it step by step, but it is also responsive to you. So if you're on the paperwork module, but you are like, ugh, I just can't be bothered with paperwork right now. Instead, I would really want to be planning my consult call or my, pre-intensive call or whatever else. Then please do yourself a favor and allow yourself to follow where you feel the energy flowing. And just know that you can circle back. Like it's always going to be there. It's pre-recorded, it's mapped out. So go at your own pace and your own direction, and you can't go wrong. So, yeah. Yes, yes, yes. That was another question that came up. Oh, wow. Thank you, Adele. So the question was, there was confusion. Is the workshop and cohort live and recorded, or is it all pre-recorded and self-paced? And the answer is both. Yes to all. So there is a live workshop where you can come in, do the training, and ask questions. There's also a cohort that's like a smaller group where we have more intimate discussions and do coaching. Both of those are recorded, but when you join, you get instant access to the course that's self-paced. It's all the same content, wherever you join, but just different modes of how to engage it. So that way you can choose the best way that will work for you in any given moment. So I hope that helps clarify. I know it's more complicated when you have lots of options, but I want to make sure it is actually useful for real people. Cool. I don't see anything new coming in here. Um, Folks in the Zoom room, do you have any other questions before we sort of uh, dismantle for today? I do not think so. Oh, awesome. Well, thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate it so much. And like I said, if more questions pop up, feel free to reach out. And we're going to be doing the hot seat coaching call on Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern. You'll get an email and there's an event in the Facebook group. So, yeah. All right. Take good care. Bye.